Hi, my name is Jenny Lee. I'm here to talk about Gandhi's concept of Satyagraha today. Right now, I'm still getting accustomed to my phone's camera. It's kind of weird when I try to film myself. If I look at my picture on my phone, then my eyes are looking off to the side and they have kind of a glazed look. If I try to look directly at the camera, I think it looks better, but I'm not quite sure. This is kind of okay. I'm not used to filming myself, so it's experimental. So please forgive me if my eyes look kind of funny. If I look like I have a far off look, that's why. This video is all about Gandhi's concept of Satyagraha. Satyagraha means gripping the truth. And Sat is particularly like a true universal spiritual truth. And Graha is like gripping very strongly with all of your being. And this is a concept that Gandhi started to explain to people, to explain the phenomenon that when we find and hold the truth within and we understand it on a very deep level, the more profound and the more deep our personal realization and understanding of that truth is, the greater that understanding actually resonates from us. So if I deeply accept and understand that I am and all beings are one with the love that created the universe, then when I speak that idea, that truth, the truth itself, will resonate from within me, and it will be more easily understood by others, so much more so that if my understanding of that truth is deep enough, then when I say it to another person, they will feel and understand that truth within them. That the understanding itself will resonate and be felt within another person's heart and soul and mind. A modern idea of this concept is the idea that if I have learned and found a spiritual truth and I look to another person and I just say that truth, I speak it from my own understanding and let go, then the very fact that I understand that truth within my being has an electromagnetic resonance that is in my aura that other people can feel, and it helps other people to have that same realization of that same truth. The truth itself has an energy to it. It has a frequency. And this frequency can be resonated and transmitted from each of us just by us understanding that truth. And then we have it within ourselves. It's a beautiful concept. It's a beautiful idea. Now, Gandhi's nonviolent spiritual movement of resistance to English domination and rule of India. And it was a spiritual movement, very much so. It was based around this idea very strongly, very powerfully. What he did is he went around teaching this idea to the people. He went on a walkabout, a long walkabout throughout India, getting to know the Indian people, just the ordinary people, and seeing the conditions they were living in, seeing what life had become like under the domination of the British Empire. And large numbers of people were dying of starvation due to the British Empire's policies. And from the British Empire, this was on purpose. And so Gandhi went around and he got to know the people, and the people got to know him. He had a newsletter, and maybe a news magazine too, I don't remember, but he had a newsletter or newspaper that he was circulating. People sponsored him. A lot of rich people who cared about the well-being of India sponsored him and helped pay for him to live as a peasant, but to kind of have enough to get by as he did this walkabout, to get to know the people of India. And he did this on purpose, lived as a peasant on purpose. He didn't have to. You need to understand, he was from a very rich family. He did not have to go live like an extremely poor person. His family was wealthy. He grew up in privilege. He had a super high-class education that most Indians did not get in those days, and he had a westernized education because it was believed that that would get him a really good high-paying job so he could stay high class, and so that his descendants could stay high class. And he chose to let go of that super high-paying job. He was trained as a lawyer, went to college in England. Sent there because his family had lots of money and could do that for their son. And what he did is he followed a policy in his nonviolent movement of spiritual resistance to oppression. And the policy was, I and my followers will refuse to follow unjust laws. Yes, it is the law. We fully acknowledge it is the law. It is the law. We refuse to follow. And he circulated the stories of what he found as he traveled throughout India, as he met the peasants of India, as he met farmers who didn't have enough food because of England's policies and who were dying. He circulated the stories of what he saw happening. He circulated his religious and spiritual ideals. And he was very committed to this idea of spiritual truth and standing in that truth. And his truth that he stood in and that he preached was that we are all one with Brahman. We are all one with this entity, with this being that makes up all space. It makes up all of existence. It makes up all matter. It makes up all life. It makes up all of everything, every single star, the space in between the stars, the planets, the suns, the moons, the people, the animals, the trees, the plants, all of life. We are all part of this greater living entity. And that being is God. It is one with love. And we are all essentially at the smallest infinitesimal part made up of the love that is the essence of this entity. And the main principles of the universe are love. And that is what we are. And the idea was that by speaking this truth from his understanding and making his understanding of this truth as deep as possible, and his realization of it, his experience of it as deep as possible. His idea was that if his realization and experience and understanding of this truth was deep enough, and he spoke that truth, and he stood his ground in that truth, then it was impossible for other people to not come to a true understanding and a deeper realization of that truth than what they had before. And that it would work and that they would win. And they actually won. He defeated the goddamn fucking British Empire. This empire that it was said was so big around the world that the sun never set on the British Empire. I mean, the British Empire, it affected China. They had Hong Kong. You know, I think they still have quite a bit of influence in Hong Kong. I'm not sure exactly how much, but they had Hong Kong. They were everywhere. They still, unbeknownst to a lot of Americans, they still got Australia. You know, they still have a lot of places that people don't really talk about it. But this man, living as a peasant, living as a person who was dirt poor, defeated the British Empire and got almost all of India behind him. And India is fucking huge. I mean, like, I think it has over 1 billion people today. It had a lot of people back then. I don't know if it was 1 billion, it was a lot. He had almost every single one of those people behind him. Almost all of those people followed him to a certain extent. It was, he called for a day of economic resistance where not one Indian would go to work. No Indian went to work that day. And that after that, the British Empire let them have their independence. He won their independence, man. Non-violently, through this spiritual principle that if you know the truth deep enough and you speak the truth from your soul, from your own being, it will resonate and people will understand. And he stood in that, and it worked. Damn. And everything fell into place for him. It all did. That is an amazing story. And it happened. Not very long ago either. That was in like the 1920s. That wasn't that long ago. Damn. And he won their independence from the biggest goddamn fucking empire that existed at the time. Without sophisticated weaponry. Without a military army. Instead, he had a spiritual army of people that followed him. And it worked. And they set up their own community organizations to help communities heal from their own issues and take care of themselves. It was a part of what he did. But it was mind-blowing what he did. And it was all coming from this seed of that truth. That truth was the seed of his whole movement. So it's something to look into. It's something to come to an understanding of. It's something to grasp. And to grasp greatly and powerfully. And to look at. Something to know. And to speak of. All right, that's it for now. Have a good day.